Welcome back to the channel. Today is finally the day that you and I have been waiting for. So I'm finally getting the engine and transmission into the Hellcat station wagon. So I have all of the looming done, all of the wiring harness on the engine finished, minus the passenger side where we need to shorten the leads to the ECU and that plug going onto that upper crossbar. But I redid the whole loom in this nice heat wrap loom stuff that I got, which will be a lot better than that tape, which is down there. If I need to add or fix or do anything, modify anything, it'll be so much easier to do. Plus it looks a lot better. It'll protect it better from heat, the wiring. And then back here, I need to just finish this up once it's in the car. So most of that stuff right there is going to get so much shorter. It'll probably, these plugs right here will probably be somewhere around here. And then I need to bolt on both of the Cerakoted engine mounts, get the engine into the subframe. But before I get it in the subframe, I need to put the electric power steering rack from the Durango in there, the differential from the Durango in there, and then we could get the engine mounts on the engine, set the engine in there. But before that, I need to put the oil pan. I just remember that. Oil pan, dipstick, a bunch of stuff. So let's get to work, finally get this engine into the car. cannot express how excited I am for just this moment right here. She's not even in the car yet, but we have everything bolted into the subframe minus the dipstick and the new oil filter housing. So as you guys remembered, I said that oil filter housing wasn't going to work, but we have the T-Rex one, so it should hopefully work. If not, I'll have to figure something else out, probably just a remote oil filter, which isn't that big of a deal. And the oil pan looks so good. I haven't even checked it for clearance issues yet. She just slid in there, and oh man, look at that. Perfect. Steering rack's good. I think we'll be good with our steering shaft. It's going to come over here, and then we have diff. Axles look like they're going to be good and clear. I just can't wait to see this finally in the car. Look at that. It's so good. Let's get her in the car. So I thought I had resolved the oil filter housing issue. I got this nice TRX oil filter housing. It didn't clear with the little spout. So then I cut the spout off of it really nice. And I was like, well, we're good to go. It clears the pan. Try to put the filter on it. And the filter is way too big around. So the filter interferes. If it was like a Nissan filter where it was just the size of the O-ring, it would be perfect. But that's not the case. What I'm going to end up having to do is there's two options. I could still use this, and I could put a remote oil filter. I could have Hayden weld on bungs so I could run a remote oil filter housing, and then just put the oil filter somewhere around here. That's too close. Maybe down here. No, that'd be hard to get out. Somewhere that would be easily accessible compared to what it currently is on Trackhawks, Hellcats. They're pretty difficult to reach up in there and get out. It most likely would have worked if I would have had the TRX oil filter housing before I made the oil pan, but it was such a long wait to get it, and I just wanted to get the oil pan finished. I didn't actually think that it was gonna interfere, because on the website it shows that it doesn't come any further down than this flange, which it would have been fine. It was supposed to sit up like this, but that is not the case. So it actually comes down about around here. right, boys, we finally have an engine, transmission, transfer case, steering rack, front differential, everything in the station wagon, and I couldn't be more happy how this turned out. It did take a lot longer to do because I didn't hack job it, but we have everything in here and it works like it would in a factory Hellcat Challenger and Charger. So I didn't want to end up having to cut my hood up. I don't have the correct hood on here since we do have the red eye intake. I do have a red eye hood in the box. I just need to spray it. But as you can see, the hood closes factory. I have wiring over there so I can't shut it all the way, but she is not hitting. Plenty of room like it would be in a factory Hellcat Challenger or Charger. Another thing is, if I would have lifted this engine up or had it sit up higher, there would have been an issue with center of gravity. Not really a big issue, but the higher up the weight is, it throws your center of gravity off. So then you'll have more weight. It'll feel weird when you're driving on the road course, which I do plan on taking this car to the road course, the drag strip, a bunch of stuff. So I didn't want it to have any performance issues, and these superchargers already weigh a lot and they're pretty high up. Another reason was I wanted to have the factory red eye intake fit like it would factory. I didn't want to have to modify anything. We have the factory boot in there like it would factory. We're using all the factory coolant hoses, AC lines, heater hoses, everything. One thing I have to do is I need to get the aluminum overflow so I can have Hayden weld on some dash 12 fittings and run all steel braided line, or not steel braided, but braided line, so I could have the chiller and then it's not going to sweat. Because if you have just those aluminum hard lines, which they're up there, they end up sweating, and then it's a big issue because you have to wrap them, then they don't look as good. You could just run braided lines and not have to worry about that. So I'm really happy about that. I'm really happy that we have the smaller pulley on here, the better belt. We have the AAD Performance catch can. We don't really have much we have to worry about. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bolt the suspension on so I can finally figure out wheel offsets. So I can figure out what wheels I'm going to get. I'm going to definitely run a 20-inch wheel, but I'm not sure if I'm going to run a 20 by 11, a 20 by 11 and a half. I'm not sure. So I need to find something and figure out, measure what my offset's going to be with a 20 by 11, 20 by 11 and a half. But another thing I'm really happy about is over here, you can see, if you guys didn't notice in the video in the time lapse, that all of the electric power steering stuff bolts on like it would factory. So it's not hanging there. I have everything tied up. We have the differential right there, and the axle is pretty much perfectly aligned with this, where this is the factory all-wheel drive hole. But let's get to work, get all the suspension stuff on. Just finished test fitting the front suspension for pretty much the last time. So I just need to Cerakote the lower control arm, and I also need to find some of those forks for the coilover to lower control arm, and Cerakote a bunch of other stuff. But besides that, everything is, I'm very happy where it is. So I worked with Parker from AAD Performance, and we went through quite a few revisions of the upper front control arm to make all this work. So I couldn't do this without him. And a big shout out to AAD Performance, because these upper control arms are perfect. It'll allow me to adjust everything. It has just a hair of negative camber, but it has quite a bit of adjustability. So I have no concerns about adjusting this. Another thing you can see is it looks like the offset is going to be pretty much the exact same from front to rear. They both look like they're sunk in about the same. So I'm probably going to go with 20 by 11, and I think it's going to be plus 38 all the way around. I'm probably going to have to play with that, but it would be really nice to actually have everything aligned first with these wheels and then move on to being able to measure everything and kind of go from there. I have a very general idea now. This back is just sagging so much because the coilover, I can't adjust it any further up because I had to order different bases. So once I get those, we'll be able to set that. That's why I have blocks of wood under there, because if I go, down any further, it'll come off the lift. But very happy with how everything has turned out. I'm very happy that the engine and transmission drivetrain is finally in the car. I'm still waiting on the front drive shaft, but we do have the rear drive shaft. I also have the MagnaFlow exhaust up there that I've been waiting to install for a very long time, because I didn't want to have to install it, take it off, install it, take it off. Plus, I didn't have the engine in there, so there was no way to figure out where the down pipes or the mid pipes, whatever you want to call them, were going to come from the headers and then into the exhaust. So now that the engine is in there, I'll be able to finally make those down pipes or mid pipes, whatever you want to call them, and the exhaust will be 100% finished. I cannot wait to hear it. It's probably going to sound like every other Hellcat with an exhaust, but the MagnaFlow exhaust, it's the X Mod series that they sent me probably like a year, almost a year and a half now ago. But I'm going to run the mufflers on it, but it's easy to swap. It's probably the best tuner exhaust because you can do so much with it. You could swap, your resonators with straight pipes, whatever you want to do. It has a bunch of V-bands, very clean exhaust, and I can't wait to see it on this. Plus, they sent me the exhaust with the carbon fiber tips, which I'm going to be very excited about as well. So I'm going to end the video here. Super happy that this thing is finally almost to a position where it can run and drive, but we still have a few things that we have to fix. Not really fix, but the steering shaft is one. That shouldn't be that big of a deal. It's pretty much a straight shot. As you guys can see, we have my steering rack right there. And then it just needs to go back there. So I don't think that'll be that big of a deal. If I have to, I'll have a pivot or a U-joint to make it go back in there, but I think I'll just clear it. So we'll see what happens with that. As long as I go at the top of this, I think if I come at the top coming out this way, it shouldn't have any issues. But I also designed some fuel rails, and they should be here hopefully by the time I get back from SEMA. And I forgot to mention this, but I will be at SEMA this video will be live tomorrow, which is Monday. I'll be at SEMA all week. I don't go Fridays because it's not worth going, but the other days I'll be there. So if you're at SEMA, you see me, say what's up, and we'll just kind of go from there. But the Charger wagon will see me when I get back. Hopefully I can finish this rest of this wiring up on the interior. We can get her started up. I also need to finish the fuel tank, but I'm planning on running a temporary fuel cell. But I'm going to end the video here. If you like these videos, make sure to click the subscribe button, thumbs up, throw a comment below. As always, see you guys next time.